Hi everybody, it's Roy Cantu again, and today I created a PowerPoint to explain how I leverage debt to scale my land flipping business. I tried to simplify this process into four simple steps. Now, there's a lot of smaller steps in between these four steps, I believe, but I think the four that I actually did emphasize and put in this PowerPoint will really allow you to understand the process and how you can do it as well in your business. Alrighty, so let's get started. So the purpose of this presentation is very simple. It's straightforward. It's to install a repeatable framework in your mind for using debt leverage to scale your land flipping business. That's really uh, the point of this PowerPoint, right? And right here, you can see I kind of just summarized the title of each step, right? So one is hard money, second is buying cheap land, third is reselling with seller financing, and then finally you sell the note. But this is a little bit different compared to the initial video, the first video I created, because this goes more into debt and introduces wrap owner financing um, that I didn't go over in the last video. So let's get started. So step one is to find flexible capital, right? Ideally, you'd want to find a network with hard money or private lenders. I would advise you to start with family and friends. You just never know, right? Family and friends could have 401ks, IRAs that they just have sitting there they can borrow against. And I guarantee you that what they're getting in that 401k isn't much compared to what you can potentially offer them. But I put this as step one because it's just good to have capital sources on hand and ready to go whenever you do find the deal. So that's why I put this as step one. It's just smart and good practice to find yourself uh, a private lender or hard money. Now, after you exhausted the friends and family that you have, you can go on and move to networking and Google, right? Just search for hard money lenders. Go into investing group. Go into your Discord group. You will find hard money lenders. I mean, there's so many hard money lenders. One thing too that you should start asking if you decide to go to the hard money lender route is make sure that they allow wraps. What a wrap pretty much is, and I'll just let you know here now is there if they lend you money to buy a property, you will be able to sell the property with seller financing, and their first lien, their lien stays in place. Your owner finance note that you create is essentially subordinate to their first lien. Um, Not all hard money lenders will allow you to do that. Some don't even understand it. Uh, but just find yourself a hard money lender or a private lender that will allow you to wrap their first lien. It's just crucial for the strategy that you have this up front, right? And then you find a good hard money lender that understands how they're going to get paid, right? Know your true cost of capital, right? What are they going to charge? If you find a family and friend that will allow you to use their funds or capital to fund your purchase, you can kind of customize it to your liking, right? You can offer them 10% interest only, you can offer points. That's a little bit more flexible. And ideally, if you can find a friend or family member that will allow you to use their funds to fund your purchase, that'd be best. But if not, if you find a hard money lender, they're always they're gonna have different terms and rates. Some will charge you points up front, then interest only after. Um, some may ask for a down payment. Uh, some may even defer interest. I know a hard money lender that will fund 100% of the purchase price, but you won't have payments while the note's outstanding. You can just pay the interest at closing when you disposition the property. So Know your true cost of capital. What is this capital going to cost you? And make sure you know this, right? Don't miss origination fees. Don't miss the interest, right? Factor this into your acquisition price pretty much when you start finding properties. Um, so know your true cost of capital. Another good idea is to understand their lending criteria. Like what are they looking for? What is their what kind of property are they looking like? Do they want you to get the property at 60% LTV, or do they want you to bring only like 70% LTV? Do they always ask for a down payment? Like, are they lending on land? Right? Are they open to flood zones? Like, find out like their bread and butter. Each hard money lender is gonna have like an ideal bar or ideal um, property that they would be willing to lend. Just understand that the lending criteria, because if you understand their lending criteria and kind of what they're looking for and what they're comfortable with lending against, then it's easier for you to find a property that fits that criteria, right? So, um, yeah, keep that in mind. And then, as a last note, if you guys, have already exhausted family and friends, already tried Googling hard money lenders and can't find any, you can go to this website, landfunding.partners. And this is an amazing website because it kind of has all the land funders in one spot. You can compare them. You'll find a lot of equity guys here too. For the purpose of this video, I'm just going to go over debt funding. And you can find some hard money lenders here as well. So, yep. So again, step one: find the capital and find a hard money lender or a private lender that is willing to allow you to wrap their first lien note. That's step one. Rule of thumb: always remember that the acquisition price is the safety net. I mean, if you're getting a heck of a deal, right? If you're buying it at 40% of the retail value, 30% of the retail value, it's just safer for your lender. It's safer for you in case problems show up in the future, right? Remember, you're already managing risk by your buy price. So think of that as a safety net. Ideally, the lower the price, the better, because it's better for everyone that's involved in the deal. Me personally, I only buy land at 50% or less. I do that, 50% of the retail value or less, and I do that because, things arise, problems arise. You just never know, right? I mean, you think when I underwrite a deal, I think I know for the most part this is a slam dunk, or if it's not, but I still want to have that level of safety, right? I think I see myself as a good underwriter, but still, it doesn't hurt to buy at a great price to compensate for that any future problems. So again, I personally only buy at 50% of the retail value or less, and keep in mind that discounts reduce risk for you and the lender involved, right? So good rule of thumb. Step two, this touches back kind of in the rule of thumb, but just find cheap land. I'm not going to go into the details of how to market and find cheap land. There's a number of routes you can do. Code texting, I added a texting software that I used to use, Smarter Contact. They're great. I think it's like $800 a month to do it. But you can, reach out to landowners and lowball them and get a good deal. Direct mail is a great strategy as well. It's a little more expensive, but what I find with direct mail is a lot of my fatter deals that I get is through direct mail. Cold calling is an option. I haven't had any success with cold calling, but I know other land guys that have. And the MLS, my favorite. So pretty much at this point, I'm finding deals on the MLS. Deals do get missed. Realtors for the, and this is not anything against realtors or anything. They're probably just not trained, but they just don't know for the most part how to sell land, right? So there's a lot of opportunity in that, right? So step two, find the deeply discounted land, get it at 50% or less. You will thank me later, and you will find that this is definitely a great strategy. Step three, resell with owner financing. Once you find the property, you took it to your lender. At this point, you're already at title. You have a title commitment, and you're ready to disposition it. You want to resell the property with wrap owner financing. Okay. Why not just flip for cash? Well, here's a number of reasons. Because owner financing expands the buyer pool, right? If you're selling a property for $40,000, right? Not, most of America, they don't have $40,000 in the bank or have access to that type of capital, right? So, um, it just expands your buyer pool. So always offer owner financing. Uh, and this goes back to step one. Find flexible capital. Find a harmony lender, a private lender that will allow you to sell the property with a wrap owner finance disposition. Um, you just think about it. Think about it. A $40,000 property versus $4,000 down. Right? What you know? Who's gonna sell the property quicker? Right? An investor with the $40,000 property just looking for cash, or an investor who has a property, he's willing to do the deal with just $4,000 down. Right? It's a no-brainer. All right. Um, the note that is created is just as valuable as the land, and I'm going to argue that it is actually worth more than the land. In my opinion, land itself is just land. It's just stagnant. It's just sitting there. But once you create debt and is collateralized by that property, by that vacant land, I feel that the note is worth more because it is producing income, right? So it's okay if you're still in the mindset of just flipping properties for land. Just kind of get into the habit of understanding and accepting the idea that a note is just the note you create is just as valuable as the land, if not more. Market the property with seller financing. I personally, what I use is Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace is my bread and butter. I love to sell them on Facebook Marketplace because there's usually not a realtor involved, and I can sell directly to my buyer. The MLS, I do sell some of my properties on the MLS. If I don't need to sell it on the MLS, then I won't do it. The reason for that is I was focusing in a certain market, and what I ended up doing, because I was selling so much in that specific subdivision, I ended up inflating the pricing for other. So when other sellers, decided to sell their land, they would reach out to their realtor, and the realtor would run comps, and then they would see my comps, but my comps were seller finance comps, and all of a sudden, a bunch of people just decided to sell their land at what I was selling my land with owner financing, and it just inflated the market in that subdivision. So I learned quickly, like, wow, not to be careful, because that's where a lot of the sold data gets recorded. And in my opinion, an owner finance comp is not the same as a cash comp. So, yeah, that's where I market, and that's why I stick to these two. However, I do sell on the MLS. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just selective. That's it. On which properties I will and which I won't. So step 4, once you find the buyer and you close on the transaction, you'll have a wrap owner finance note. Your note wraps the hard money lender's first lien. The way I make money, is the wrap note can be sold. The wrap note can be sold at closing or on the secondary market. On PaperStack, I went over that in my last video. And the way we make money is when the wrap note sells, the note buyer's proceeds will pay off your first lien lender's a lien, and then the difference between what you owe your lender and what your note sold for, that difference, that spread, is how we make money on this. That's how we recapitalize, we get our profits, and we do it again, right? So step 4 is to sell the wrap note. And this is an important slide. Why does this scale your land business? Because little to none of my own capital stays in the deal. When you're using debt leverage, you're maybe paying for closing costs up front. Maybe you're paying for some drone photos to be taken. But I mean, relative to the entire purchase price, your capital, my own capital is very low. And because of this, your cash on cash returns increase substantially. And I will give. Oh, I'm going to show you an example once I'm done with this slide of what I mean. I'll show you an example of a deal I did with the no buyer wrap note, all that good stuff. But this is why it scales. I mean, think about it. If you only have, let's say, $20,000 in the bank, right, and you buy, let's say, 2 properties for $10,000 each. That's it. You could only buy 2 properties at $10,000 each, or you could buy one for 20, or you could buy 4 properties at $5,000 each, right? So your inventory, your acquisition strategy, your acquisitions are really just limited to those 20. But now, when you introduce leverage or debt leverage, now you only need about, let's say, $1,000 to $2,000 per property. And if you have $20,000, now you can buy, 10 properties with only $2,000 out of your pocket per deal. Sorry, that's the kid in the background. This is why it scales your land business substantially, and your cash on cash returns increase. And then I want to reiterate that the risk is kept low by the buy price and your skill set of dispositioning the property. The better you are at selling the property, or the better you're going to be. You and your lender are going to be, right? So that's where the risk is mitigated. First is the buy price. Second is your skill level of being able to sell the property. And then wrap notes. Wrap notes allow for faster sales and for you to recycle your capital. This goes back to the previous slide where it's just easier to sell property with low capital from your buyer than it is for them to come with all of cash, right? So this is why it scales as a combination of these 4 items. Just keep that in mind, that this is an amazing strategy. And final thought. So this type of strategy forces you to start thinking more like a lender. You're not just a land flipper. Remember, you're creating an owner finance note. You're creating debt, and you're selling the debt. That's why this works. Land is not what you're going to be selling. Land is simply the collateral. The note you're creating is the product. That's what you're that's how you're making your money, right? Pretty much. So that is my final thoughts to this. Now it's the end of the slideshow, and now I'm going to show you guys a real life example of a deal I did. Alrighty, so here is well, first I'm going to show you the property that I purchased. Let's see here. Alrighty, so here is a nice little 1/4 acre land in outside of Houston, Texas. You can see here. It has a nice mobile home. I mean, it's a fixer-upper, but it's. I don't think it's a teardown. Anyway, this was on the MLS for about 100 days. Look where they started, and then they eventually ended up decreasing the price there. I want to show you my acquisition price. So down here, you'll see what I bought it for, $15,000, and when I bought it, right? I found this property right off the MLS. I didn't spend a dime on marketing. I just, reached out to the realtor, lowballed her, and they accepted, and I bought it. Now I'm going to show you the wrap note strategy. So here is the HUD, the settlement statement of when I purchased the property. Remember earlier when I was showing you the PowerPoint, I was going to show you how little my money is in the deal. This is where you can actually see what I mean. So the contract sales price was 15,000. This is my company. I went ahead and blocked out the seller's information and then the lender. So I actually have a private lender that I work with regularly. Um, we have a great relationship. They fund a lot of my deals. They also buy a lot of my notes. So here, uh, I came to realize when I came across this listing, I found out what my thought process was like. Look, this is only a $15,000 property. There's utilities and a mobile home. I can probably sell this for about 40, maybe 45, uh, with seller financing. 10% down. Now I did, I ran comps, and it was hard to find a similar comp. I was able to find just single family homes, and they were selling for about, I want to say like 65 cents a square foot for a single family home, and I bought this low. So this was a little risky. I'm not gonna lie, but I was comfortable with the risk because I was going to sell it with seller financing with literally only like a $4,000 down payment. Um, and I was going to factor in all the closing costs. And so literally all the buyer had to do is pay like a $3,900 down payment to buy this property. You can see here there's already an electric pole. There was a septic back there, and then a water meter wasn't there, but I confirmed with the water company that they did have water. So I thought this was a great deal, and I was okay with the risk. So the lender here funded 100% of the purchase price. Literally, I didn't have to put any down payment at all. It was 100% financing. Um, the only thing out of pocket that I had to pay was the settlement charges. So to me, it was 1142. And one thing too that should have been on this HUD, but it isn't, is I had to pay to get the docs drawn, the lender docs drawn. The title company didn't want to do them. They thought it was usurious, so uh, I paid so it was like 550 to prep the docs plus this, and then surprisingly I got like $88 back at closing. It was so weird, but so my all-in cost so far is, I'm gonna add them up for you. So 1142 plus 550 in doc prep, 1692 all in, literally, and I had control of this property pretty much. Um, oh, and then I got back 87 bucks. So let's add that. Boom. So I'm all in. When I acquired this property, I was literally all in $1,600. This is what I'm talking about. $1,600 allowed me to obtain control of this quarter-acre property with a mobile home and utilities. That is leverage, my friends. Okay. So now you get the idea. Now, this sold on the 20th of October, and I think it funded on the 22nd. That's why on the MLS it's the 22nd. So around the 20th of October is when I bought it. Um, and then I didn't even have to take new photos. I just went ahead and used the same photos uh, on the listing. I mean, they're great. The realtor, I guess, knew how to take photos, or she hired someone to take photos. Who knows? But I used the same photos. I didn't use anything fancy. So I listed this on Facebook Marketplace. I didn't want to list it on the MLS because obviously, they realtors can see, hey, you just bought this for 15 grand, you're selling it for 40. So I was gonna, eventually I was like, if I hadn't sold it so fast on Facebook Marketplace, I would have listed it on the MLS. But I just had it on Facebook Marketplace. I don't even think I did Craigslist on this one because it sold so fast. But you'll see. So here is the contract, the purchase contract of when I found a buyer. This is an executed contract, and I'm gonna show you the what I sold it at, how I sold it, and when I sold it. Right. So this is my company name. Here's the legal. The sale price was $39,900. I asked for a $3,900 down payment, and then the note is 36 grand. I asked for a $2,000 deposit up front, and this buyer was gladly paid it. She signed it. I just blocked out their info here because just in case, you never know. So that is the sell price. Remember, I bought it for 15 and I sold it for $39.9 with $3,900 down. Okay, and the date on this is the 29th. You can see. So literally a week later, I sold it on Facebook Marketplace. That's how fast I sold it. So down or in the next PDF is the settlement statement from when I sold it, right? So you can see what I made, okay, and how much I put in. So the sell price here is $39.9. So I got creative with this one, and the lender who lent me the 15 grand, he is also the note buyer. So he lent me the $15,000 for this property, for the purchase of this property, but he also bought the note once I created it, right? So I'm not trying to confuse you, but the way it works pretty much is he lent me the 15 grand. Then I sold it at $39.9. That creates a $36,000 note. I sold that note to him at this amount. Note purchase from, and I blocked the lender's identity, but it's $27,750. What he did was he released his first lien, the $15,000, and then he wired in the difference, right? So in this HUD are real numbers. So you can see there was some interest accumulated or whatnot. So the payout was $15,600. He wired in the difference. And then after all these settlement charges that I actually had, at closing, this 83 and some change is what went into my account. But keep in mind, though, the buyer also paid $3,900 directly to me. You can see that right here. So what I ended up getting is the 8373. Here, let me move the calculator. 8373 plus the 3,900, and that's what I made total on this deal. But remember, I only had 1,600 in the deal, right? So if you really do the math of how this deal worked out, I mean, think about it in the last slide when I said why this scales. And because your cash on cash return increases substantially, this is what I mean. So to really find out what I made in this deal is you get the total amount of money that I walked away with. So it was about 12,200, and we divided by my actual capital out. And that, my friends, is a 764% return on your money, literally in about 30 days. So the closing date was the 20th. So I bought it on the 20th, and then I sold it on the 20th. I bought it on the 20th of October, and I sold it on the 20th of November, right? So this is an example of me using debt to scale my land flipping business. Now, this isn't just land that's had a mobile home, but hey, this can work with homes too, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys understand what I did here. I plan to make more videos on how you can use debt to leverage and just make more money. There's a whole other strategy as well. There's second liens. You can do a hypothecation. There's a bunch of other things that I think you can learn by watching these videos. But here is what I'm teaching you. Here, what I'm showing you is how you can really scale this business. And you don't have to go out and get equity. Equity funding is much more expensive than debt. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I wish you guys luck in your business. Reach out to me if you have any questions, any concerns. I'm going to put my email in the description below. Have a good one.